Winslow was found guilty of rape and exposing himself to women.
Henry Ruggs III has been involved in a deadly crash. He is expected to be charged with felony DUI.
The headlines shattered when Ruggs smashed his car in a fatal wreck, immediately facing serious felony charges for driving impaired. Today we are looking at the Gridiron Greats, currently trading jerseys for orange jumpsuits. First up, Chad Wheeler. This former offensive tackle made his name guarding quarterbacks at EZPSC before going pro with the New York Giants and eventually the Seattle Seahawks. Born in January 1994, the kid was a beast in high school, riding that momentum all the way to a first-team All-Pac-12 nod with the Trojans. But his NCAO days were a mess of medical charts, plagued by concussions and a torn ACL in 2014 that tanked his value with scouts. The warning signs were there, too, like a chaotic run-in with law enforcement back in 2015. Cops actually had to take him down with non-lethal beanbag rounds before hauling him off for a psych eval. Even with all that baggage, he managed to crack the league in 2017 without hearing his name called on draft night. Big Blue took a chance on him, and he worked his way up to starting gigs at right tackle by the 2018 season. When New York cut him loose over health issues in 2019, he landed in the Pacific Northwest, grinding on Seattle's practice squad before making the main roster. He saw sporadic action throughout 2020, but everything came to a screeching halt in January 2021. That is when a nightmare unfolded in Kent, Washington, as Wheeler launched a brutal domestic assault against his girlfriend. Official records state the violence went down right inside the player's own apartment. Terrified, the victim barricaded herself in the bathroom to dial 911, whispering to dispatchers that she genuinely thought she was about to be killed. When officers stormed in, they found the giant lineman standing there, strangely calm and following orders as if nothing happened. They slapped the cuffs on him, hitting him with 3 heavy felonies, including first-degree domestic assault and unlawful imprisonment. He posted a massive $400,000 bond to walk free, but Seattle wasted zero time cutting him from the team. Wheeler announced he was quitting the game to get his head right, but the wheels of justice were already turning. He entered a not guilty plea in February 2021, kicking off a long legal saga that finally hit the courtroom floor 2 years later. By November 9th, 2023, a jury in King County had heard enough, convicting him of domestic violence assault. The judge confirmed the attack inflicted serious bodily damage, backing the prosecution's push for a heavy felony conviction. The gavel dropped with a sentence of 6.5 years, which he is serving right now in Washington. But next, we have a tragic case of drunk driving that ended in the worst way possible. Henry Ruggs III. This wide receiver spent just 2 seasons with the Las Vegas Raiders before trading the stadium lights for a prison cell. Born in January 1999, Ruggs was a homegrown talent out of Montgomery, Alabama. The kid was a freak of nature, clocking a 10.58 in the 100-meter dash and snagging over 20 scholarship offers despite only playing 2 years of varsity ball. He signed with the Crimson Tide and instantly became a human highlight reel, known as one of the most explosive deep threats in the nation. He wrapped up his college days with 24 touchdown catches, cementing his name as third best in the school's record books. Heading into the 2020 draft, he blazed a 4.27 40, prompting the Raiders to snatch him up 12th overall as the first receiver off the board. He showed sparks of brilliance as a rookie, and by 2021, he was heating up with 469 yards in just 7 starts. But it all came crashing down at 3:39 in the morning on November 2nd, 2021. Cruising through Spring Valley, Nevada, in a Corvette with his girlfriend. Ruggs was absolutely flying. Data recorders clocked him at a terrifying 156 miles per hour just before the smash. When they tested his blood 2 hours later, he was sitting at 0.161, more than double the legal limit in Nevada. At that speed, he plowed right into the rear of a Toyota RAV4, driven by a 23-year-old woman named Tina Tintor. The impact turned the SUV into a fireball, trapping Tina and her dog inside as the flames consumed the vehicle. Miraculously, Ruggs and his passenger walked away with injuries that were not life-threatening. Once doctors cleared him, he was hauled straight to the Clark County Detention Center, facing heavy charges of DUI, resulting in death. Vegas cut him from the roster immediately, while his lawyers went to work trying to get the blood evidence tossed out of court. Prosecutors didn't want to risk losing the DUI charge on a technicality, so they pushed hard for a plea agreement. In the end, Ruggs took the deal, pleading guilty to felony DUI, causing death along with a vehicular manslaughter charge. On August 9, 2023, the judge handed down a 3 to 10 year sentence, meaning he could be back on the streets by 2026. Finally, we turn to a disturbing saga involving a player convicted of a string of predatory crimes against women. Kellen Winslow II, once a star tight end. He is now just another inmate in the system. A San Diego native, he carried the heavy name of his father, the legendary Hall of Famer Kellen Winslow. He tore up the gridiron down at the U, transforming into a unanimous All-American and snagging the John Mackey Award as the country's undisputed king of tight ends. When the 2004 draft rolled around, he went pro, getting snatched up at number 6 overall by the Cleveland Browns. His jersey collection grew to include the Browns, Bucks, Patriots, and Jets, with a flash of brilliance, landing him in the Pro Bowl back in 2007. But the man was a magnet for bad luck, his time on the field plagued by brutal setbacks, including a shattered leg and a blown-out ACL after wrecking his motorcycle. He hung up the cleats for good in 2013, despite taking swings at a comeback in 2017 and again in 2018. Off the field, however, the narrative took a dark turn, starting in 2014 with a bust for holding narcotics. Things really went off the rails in June 2018 when cops in San Diego County cuffed him for allegedly breaking into a trailer park home with bad intentions. Barely a few days later, the law came knocking again, hitting him with heavy charges like kidnapping and assault. The DI painted him as a predator hunting at-risk women, from the homeless to the elderly, while also digging up a cold case from 2003, where he allegedly attacked an unconscious 17-year-old girl back when he was just 19. He managed to buy his freedom temporarily, but the handcuffs went right back on in 2019 when fresh allegations surfaced. The rap sheet grew uglier, listing lewd conduct, flashing, and physically battering an older woman. Round 1 in court wrapped up in June 2019, nailing him for mistreatment, exposure, and lewd acts. The jury deadlocked on the rest. But by November 2019, Winslow decided to cut his losses and take a deal. He admitted guilt regarding the unconscious teenager and confessed to battery against a 54-year-old hitchhiker. That signature on the plea bargain saved him from dying behind bars, and in 2021, the judge handed down a 14-year stretch for his violent streak. His defense team played the CTE card, blaming head trauma for his behavior, but the gavel came down just the same. Fast forward to 2023, and Kellen Winslow II is just a number inside the California Correctional Institution. He is currently doing his hard time out in Tehachapi, California. Now, let's pivot to a different kind of monster. A linebacker locked up for orchestrating a hit on a millionaire Eric Naposki, former NFL and World League enforcer, hailing from Tuckahoe, New York. This guy bounced around high schools chasing pigskin glory before snagging a full ride to Yukon. He walked away from the squad after butting heads with the coaching staff, though he eventually circled back to grab that diploma. Naposki clawed his way into the league as an undrafted hopeful in 1988, logging brief stints with the Pats, Colts, Jets, and Cowboys. His real highlight reel, however, was filmed overseas in the World League of American Football. He spent 4 years crushing it with the Barcelona Dragons, even anchoring the squad that took home the World Bowl trophy in 1997. But back on home soil, specifically December 15th, 1994, tragedy struck when Bill McLaughlin was executed inside his secure Newport Beach estate. The case went ice cold for 15 long years until 2009, When detectives finally put the cuffs on Naposki up in Connecticut, the state's theory was straight out of a noir film. Naposki pulled the trigger in cahoots with McLaughlin's girlfriend, Nanette Johnston, who happened to be sleeping with the linebacker on the side. It was all about the greenbacks. Johnston was in line to inherit over $2.5 million in insurance and assets if McLaughlin stopped breathing. Prosecutors laid it out. Johnston was handling the victim's money and living in his mansion while sneaking around with Naposki behind the scenes. It didn't look good that Naposki was working security at a club just yards away from the crime scene, giving him the perfect window to slip away and do the deed. Without a smoking gun, fingerprints, DNA, or anyone who actually saw him do it. The whole case hung on circumstantial threads. Yet, in July 2011, an Orange County jury didn't buy his story, finding him guilty of first-degree murder for greed and gunning a man down. He was staring down the barrel of lethal injection. But his office decided to take capital punishment off the table. Instead, August 2012 saw him condemned to life in a cage with zero chance of ever walking free. Johnston got hit with the exact same fate, while Naposki has never stopped screaming that they got the wrong guy. His legal team argued that waiting 15 years to press charges destroyed crucial evidence that could have proven his alibi. The courts weren't having it, though in 2014, his appeal was shot down, cementing the conviction. Today, Eric Naposki rots in California State Prison, Corcoran, serving out a life term with no exit strategy. Changing gears, we have Robert McCune, a guy who traded tackles for a sprawling criminal enterprise. This ex-linebacker is currently checking off days on a 5-year federal stretch for Mastermind, a gigantic healthcare ripoff involving a whole roster of former pros. A product of Mobile, Alabama, McCune was a dual-sport threat in football and track back at LaFleur High. Before the glitz of the league, he put in work for Uncle Sam, serving 3 years in the National Guard with deployments to Korea and Kuwait. He eventually hit the college gridiron at Louisville, evolving into a 2-year starter at middle linebacker and racking up all-conference nods. His NFL dreams became reality in 2005 when the Washington Redskins picked him up in round 5. He rode the pine on the practice squad for most of year 1, but managed to suit up for 5 regular season clashes and 2 playoff battles, mostly earning his keep on special teams. He spent those years as a total journeyman, bouncing from the Dolphins to the Ravens and then the Browns, but he barely saw any real game action. Once the NFL doors slammed shut, he took his talents north to the CFL, suiting up for the Calgary Stampeders and the Toronto Argonauts. He actually crushed it in Toronto, anchoring the defense for their 100th Grey Cup win in 2012. But his life took a dark turn long after he hung up his cleats. From June 2017 to April 2018, he ran a massive con targeting the Gene Upshaw Health Reimbursement Plan. That fund is supposed to be a safety net, covering medical bills for retired pros and their families. McCune filed 68 bogus requests for high-end gear, claiming he bought stuff like hyperbaric oxygen chambers, ultrasound tech, and electromagnetic therapy units. But here's the catch: he never bought a single thing. He also filed paperwork for 51 other guys, most of whom never saw a dime or a device. All told, McCune and his crew tried to drain about $2.9 million right out of the fund. The feds eventually caught on to the hustle, and on December 12, 2019, they hit him with charges for wire fraud, healthcare fraud, and conspiracy. At first, he claimed he was innocent, but he didn't stick to that story for long. Come September 2021, he copped to everything, even identity theft. And by February 2022, the judge handed him a 5-year stretch in federal lockup. They busted 13 other players too, but McCune was the ringleader, the guy pulling the strings on most of those fake submissions. Right now, Robert McCune is sitting in a federal cell, serving out his time. Switching gears, let's talk about an NFL vet whose story ends in a horrific, unexpected murder case. Kevin Ware Jr. used to be a tight end, spending time on the roster for both Washington and the San Francisco 49ers. He wasn't exactly a household name, but he suited up for 16 games and got a brief taste of the big league life, away from the stadium. Though, his world was collapsing into a nightmare of narcotics, brutality, and ultimately, a killing. The red flags were there early. way back in 2002 during his college days at Washington. He caught a misdemeanor assault charge. Once his pro football days were over, he just couldn't stay on the right side of the law. By 2010, authorities picked him up for theft and running from the cops following another assault. He got hit with a 2-year prison term in 2018 for dealing drugs. But 2021 is when things went completely off the rails. Police stopped him in Magnolia, Texas, on April 19, 2021, and found a stash of drugs, a loaded 9mm, and a loaded AK-47 definitely illegal for a convicted felon. They booked him, but he posted bond the very next day. And barely a month later, his girlfriend, 29-year-old Taylor Pomaski, vanished. Witnesses reported hearing a nasty altercation during a party the couple hosted on April 25th. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. And Ware landed at the top of the suspect list, especially after getting arrested again in June for skipping bail. It took months, but on December 10th, 2021, detectives discovered human remains out in northern Harris County. The body was severely burned, but DNA analysis confirmed the tragic truth. It was Taylor Pomaski. By July 2022, a grand jury indicted Ware for murder and tampering with a corpse, and prosecutors laid out the gruesome details. She had been bludgeoned and set on fire, and Ware remained behind bars on his previous charges while the murder case built up against him. He finally admitted to the crime in May 2025, pleading guilty to killing Pomaski to dodge a life term. He took a deal for 30 years in state prison. Now, let's look at another player who traded the gridiron for a life of white-collar crime. John Leake was an NFL linebacker who had short stints with the Titans, Falcons, and Packers. He was a Texas boy originally, raised in Plano. After playing his college ball at Clemson from 2000 to 2003, he scrapped his way into the league as an undrafted free agent in 2004. He mostly rode the practice squad roller coaster, playing a few games between 2005 and 2006, before pivoting to a business career that was actually just a scam. Between June 2015 and March 2020, Leake operated a classic Ponzi scheme, promising investors massive paydays. He spun tall tales about lucrative projects, claiming he was dealing in luxury real estate and rental units. He even claimed to have gold mines running in Alaska and Ghana. But it was all smoke and mirrors. None of it was real. Leake talked people into handing over huge chunks of cash, swearing he'd invest it and return it with steep interest. He lied through his teeth about his own net worth, his success, and the assets he supposedly had to back up the loans. To keep up the charade, he handed out official-looking promissory notes, guaranteeing those fixed returns. But once that cash hit his hands, he didn't invest a single cent. Instead, he blew it all on his own, high life, paying off credit cards, rent, car notes, and fueling a gambling habit. He also used new money to pay off old investors just to keep the hustle going. Textbook Ponzi tactics. All in all, Leake swindled over $8.1 million from 6 people, leaving them with more than $5 million in losses. We are talking $3 million completely gone, vanished into thin air through bogus schemes that were total fantasy from the start. When the gavel finally dropped in January 2025, he got 30 months behind bars and a massive bill of $5,314,500 in restitution. Switching gears, let's look at a former gridiron star whose legacy is now stained by a horrific string of predatory crimes against women. Enter Darren Sharper. This guy was a heavyweight safety, grinding out 14 seasons for big squads like the Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, and New Orleans Saints. His resume was stacked 5 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pro nods, and sitting pretty at number 6 on the all-time interception list. He even tied the record for the most defensive touchdowns ever. Raised in Virginia, Sharper was a dual threat in books and ball at Hermitage High. At William and Mary, he tore it up, smashing school records with 24 career picks and racking up over 1,000 punt return yards. The Packers snatched him up in the second round of the '97 draft, and he didn't waste time becoming one of the most feared defensive backs in the game. He reached the mountaintop in 2010, bagging a Super Bowl 44 ring with the Saints. But away from the stadium lights, Sharper was hiding a dark secret. Starting around 2011, he began targeting women at clubs, parties, and private homes. His hunting grounds spanned from California and Arizona to Louisiana and Nevada, where he would spike drinks with heavy sedatives to knock his victims out cold. That method made justice hard to come by for a long time. Detectives confirmed at least 9 victims, but the real count could be 16 or higher. He didn't work alone either. Sharper roped in accomplices Brandon Licciardi and Eric Nunez to help facilitate these nightmares. Both of those associates got hammered by the legal system too, landing long prison stints running right alongside Sharper's time. The House of Cards collapsed in 2014 when cuffs finally went on him, sparking a multi-state legal firestorm involving heavy assault and drug conspiracy charges. Cornered by the evidence, he copped pleas guilty or no contest across every single state he operated in. The final tally was a 20-year state sentence running parallel to an 18-year, 4-month federal stretch. On top of the time, they slapped him with 3 years of supervision upon release and a $20,000 fine. He is also tagged as a registered offender for life and ordered into treatment. Needless to say, his days in the sports world are ancient history. Right before the scandal broke, he was actually building a second career, analyzing games for WWL-TV and the NFL Network. From NFL royalty to inmate status, Sharper is currently locked up at FCI Elkton with a release date not coming until late 2028. Next on the docket is a heart-wrenching case involving a pro baller serving time for the death of a 5-year-old girl. Meet Cierre Wood, once a talented running back. His name is now synonymous with unspeakable tragedy rather than touchdowns. He shined at Notre Dame before bouncing around the league with the Texans, Patriots, Ravens, Seahawks, and Bills. He even took his talents north of the border, suiting up for the Hamilton Tiger Cats and Montreal Alouettes in the CFL. Wood was a beast coming out of Oxnard, California, at Santa Clara High. He put up video game numbers over 2,600 yards and 34 scores in just his junior year. USA Today named him an All-American, and as a blue-chip recruit, he snubbed major Pac-12 programs to fight for the Fighting Irish. By 2011, he was the main man in South Bend, rushing for over $1 grand in yardage and finding the end zone 9 times. But red flags started popping up, like a 2-game suspension in 2012 for breaking team protocols. He declared for the 2013 draft, got snubbed by every team, but eventually caught a break as a free agent with Houston. His pro run was shaky at best, lots of cuts, signings, and practice squad stashing without ever really sticking. Truth is, he never recaptured that explosive magic he showed back in his prep and college glory days. A blown ACL with the Bills pretty much sealed his fate on the field. Then, in 2019, his life took a horrific detour. On April 10th, 2019, Vegas police arrested Wood and his girlfriend, Amy Taylor, after the death of her 5-year-old daughter, Lariah Davis. The details are gut-wrenching. Medical examiners found severe trauma, claiming the child was forced into brutal workout drills as punishment. The alleged reason was her weight. The brutality of the case sent shockwaves through the community, especially given his status as a former athlete. Fast forward to 2024, and Wood entered an Alford plea to second-degree murder and child abuse charges. The judge handed down a life sentence, meaning he won't even smell a parole hearing for 12 years and 4 months. Flipping the script, we have got another player serving a 41-year stretch. But this time, it is for running a major drug empire, Darryl Henley. Darryl Keith Henley was living the dream. A standout cornerback for the LA Rams. This guy was a consensus All-American at UCLA back in '88. The Rams picked him up in the second round of the '89 draft, and he immediately became a cornerstone of their defense. 76 games, 12 picks, solid numbers. But his extracurricular activities were about to overshadow everything he did on the turf. By the early 90s, Henley wasn't just playing ball. He was deep in the trenches of a nationwide narcotics ring. He ran the operation right out of his pad in Brea, California, leveraging his fame to build a crew. He even compromised a former Rams cheerleader, Tracy Donahoe, using her to mule suitcases full of product across state lines. His illicit dealings kept him off the field for the last 11 matchups of the '93 season. Yet he amazingly still pocketed his full $600,000 paycheck. He managed a brief, court-monitored comeback with the Rams in '94. But once that contract ran out, so did his luck. Instead of signing a massive multi-million-dollar extension, he watched his life completely implode legally. By March of '95, the hammer dropped on Henley and 4 accomplices, including his own uncle, as they were found guilty on serious drug conspiracy and possession counts. That verdict effectively ended his life as a pro athlete, marking the tragic point where he traded his jersey for a permanent inmate number. But sitting in a Los Angeles cell awaiting his fate didn't humble him. It actually drove him to orchestrate even darker schemes. Investigators were stunned to find he had put out a hit on the very judge presiding over his case, Gary L. Taylor, as well as a key witness, Tracy Dano. He was calling the shots from inside the lockup, even paying off a dirty guard to sneak a cell phone to him so he could coordinate the murders. These revelations sent shockwaves through the courts, exposing a frightening truth. He was arguably more lethal behind bars than he ever was as a free man. Justice finally came down hard during back-to-back federal hearings in March of '97, slamming him with a sentence of 41 years and 3 months. This time was to be served in maximum security lockdown, guaranteeing he wouldn't see the outside world again until he was an old man in his 60s. Judge James Eidemann didn't hold back, characterizing Henley as a career criminal who needed to be kept under lock and key 24 hours a day. Federal prosecutors agreed, insisting that such a severe punishment was the only fitting response to the sheer audacity and scale of his criminal mindset. What's your take on this insane downfall? Sound off in the comments. And make sure to hit like and subscribe to NFL Rivals so you catch our next video.